So, what inspired you to pursue roasting your own coffee beans? Was there a moment where you realized that normal coffee was just not going to cut it for you anymore?
Yes, there is a very specific moment. So in 2016, I spent 10 months like backpacking around the world, which was an incredible experience. And in the midst of those 10 months, I spent 3 weeks in Ethiopia. And Ethiopia is considered by most people like the birthplace of coffee, at least where the sort of original species of a tree growing coffee is from. And there's definitely a dynamic coffee culture there that's really unique and special. And while I was in that country, I saw people roasting. Usually it was a woman roasting coffee on practically every block of every city or town I was visiting. And so it would be like the street food version of a cafe where she's sitting on a low stool and she's roasting coffee over a small charcoal open fire. And then she's grinding it by hand like in a mortar and pestle. And then she's brewing it. And you're paying what we in the US would typically consider like a pretty low price for really good, completely fresh coffee. And the fact that I was watching this happen over and over every day I was there and enjoying it myself, but basically like seeing that the process could be as simple as heating up these beans over a stove, like that's all it takes, inspired me. And I was like, I want to do that. And I bought my first bag of unroasted green coffee on the street in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, before I left the country. And yeah, that was the first thing I ever tried to roast when I got back home to the US. I'm mostly a French press person. And that's been how I've had coffee for like the 10 years or so that I've enjoyed coffee pretty much daily. But we actually just got an espresso machine, like a pretty like nice kind of expensive espresso machine for the house. And it's a game changer. Like it radically changes my thinking about how I want to enjoy coffee at home and even what I want to roast. Because espresso is typically a pretty dark roast. Whereas in the French press, I'd like a light roast coffee most of the time. So it's a really different flavor experience, and it will influence what I want to roast. So, yeah. But to be able to just like feel coffee beans is like one of my favorite parts of the whole experience too. I also like to like eat one bean. And you're welcome to have a bean if you want.
I would love a bean. Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, it's super fruity.
Yeah.
I'm really impressed by that. That is delicious.
Cool. Yeah. It's really all in the beans, but it's all in the beans.
Greg, what about that?
Hold on. Sorry.
Do you want to adjust the angle?
Yeah.
You're good.
Well, actually, let me ask you, do you want me to do...
You walked across the continental United States, if I'm getting this right, the California-Mexico border to the Maine-Canada border.
That's right.
What was that experience like for you?
It was an incredible gift of being present with myself and my surroundings at all times. Like, one of my favorite parts of that experience is that I was outdoors nearly 24/7. I mean, I certainly went inside. I was hosted by people overnight about half of my nights, and then I camped about half of my nights. But much of the time, and certainly all day, every day, with like the exception of meals, sometimes. Anyway, I was outside a ton. I loved that. I loved feeling connected to the landscape even as I moved through it. I loved having the focus of knowing that I was heading to this certain end goal, which is a lighthouse in Maine, and that was where I was ending this journey. That was always this North Star drawing me forward. But within the everyday was the serendipity of who I'm going to meet and what's going to stop me and take me off path for a couple hours or something if there's something to do. And I love that, and have had that experience traveling before as well, where there's like an overarching goal and direction that then for me become parameters for freedom and surprise and spontaneity to come to life every day in between.
What year did you go on this walk?
2023.
2023. So that was about 10 years after you did.
Yeah, American Bear, An Adventure in the Kindness of Strangers.
That was released in 2013, and you started that in 2010?
That's right. Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
So it was about a decade, give or take a decade later. Do you feel like your experiences with American Bear and traveling and the generosity of strangers, that theme, do you feel like that prepared you or maybe inspired you to take a larger leap?
1,000%. Yeah, I see my walk as like my personal sequel to the documentary American Bear. Seeing this place we call the United States and meeting people along the way and trying to really experience some sense of like the country as a whole through primarily face-to-face interactions, and then again like the landscapes that I was immersed in throughout each of those travel experiences. With the documentary, our goal was to see if people would invite us to their homes and host us for a night. On the walk, that wasn't an explicit goal, but it happened several times, and I was grateful for that. So both of them have this really pretty unique situation where while traveling, I've been this like wandering stranger who has gotten to join somebody in their most intimate place, their home. Today's coffee roasting was like very social, obviously, because we were talking the entire time. There are times where I like have a friend over while I'm roasting and we're just chatting. That's definitely like, sometimes that's how it is. But most of the time when I roast, I'm by myself. I usually will play some like quiet, gentle music. And I treat it as a very meditative process. And part of what I try to like make be part of the experience is the fact that when the beans are roasting, they are under pressure and under heat and changing their makeup and releasing things, and in doing so, revealing their best flavors. And I try, when I'm roasting by myself, to apply that as a metaphor for myself. What am I releasing right now? What is like in me that can emerge as my better flavors or something? And so I wanted to share that because it's become over all these years. One of my favorite things about the process is like it's like an opportunity to like step back and have this like self-reflection half hour or hour, and it's just it's sweet. Hi, I'm Greg Grano, and I roast my own coffee.